We jump into December and into the season of Advent and get closer and closer to Christmas. We're going to begin our series this morning called The Christmas Dilema. Now, Christmas is one of those seasons. It's one of the stories that for some people, it's a familiar story. We're aware of the characters in the first Christmas story of Mary and Joseph and the innkeeper and the shepherds and the wise men. And we're familiar with this story. And perhaps sometimes we're a little too familiar with it. For others, it may be a story that we're less familiar with, that we know some of the carols and we know some of the readings, but it's not still quite kind of locked into our lives as of yet. And so the next number of weeks leading up to Christmas Eve, we're going to go back and we're going to look at different characters in the midst of the Christmas story. And we're going to do it from the perspective of looking at some of the dilemmas that they faced. Some of the challenges, the choices that every one of them needed to make an intentional choice in order to truly experience Christmas in their life. And the way I want us to kind of look at this is to not just kind of keep the Bible and the story at arm's length. I think one of the challenges we fall into is when we just simply read the Bible as opposed to allowing the Bible and God to begin to read us. And what I mean by that is to begin to see ourselves in the story. To begin to see, okay, in the midst of the dilemma that some of these other individuals are facing, is there a place where I can relate to that? Where maybe I am facing some of those same choices and struggles and the need to make a decision. And what I appreciate so much, not only about the Christmas story, but about all of what God teaches us, is that there's always a next step. That no matter who you are, no matter where you are in the spectrum of faith, whether you're someone who's been following Jesus for a very long time, there's always a next step. Or maybe you're someone who is kind of new to this journey or is not yet even on this journey and is still wondering, what does this look like? What does this look like? I hear people talk about faith. I hear people talk about a relationship with God. What does this look like? My hope is that in the next number of weeks, there's a chance for all of us, no matter where you are in life and in faith, to say, what is my step? What is God encouraging me to do in this season of Christmas? And so this morning we're going to start with the characters of the shepherds. And as I was thinking about Christmas, I was thinking about the various traditions that we often jump into this time of year. Right? I'm sure we start decorating our homes, we start putting the Christmas lights out. For some of us, we go to the Christmas parades, maybe in Paris or in other communities. I don't know if you went to the parade last night in Paris. Hopefully you didn't get too wet waiting for all the floats to go by. But there's one tradition that I'm sure all of us have in our lives around Christmas, and that is the tradition of giving gifts. Of giving and receiving gifts. That seems to be an important part of Christmas. And I was thinking this week, I'm not really interested in terms of what types of gifts, but the way in which you go about the giving of the gifts. And so I'm going to do a real quick survey here this morning with the group in the room here. And just kind of raise your hand if you fall into one of these categories, okay? And the first category I'm going to call the keeners. This is the category of people that as I'm talking about gifts, you're sitting there and you're thinking, I've already got this sorted. I've not only got all the gifts, I've had the gifts already. I've purchased all the gifts. I know what the gifts are. I've been shopping. I've been buying since like June or July. Are there any people in that category? Listen, we spoke about judgment a couple of weeks ago. There's no judgment. Sorry. Put your hands up. Well, that's impressive. I didn't think there'd be that many in this room, right? So well done. Well done for the keeners. Well done. We'll give them, right. All right, so second group, you're not keeners, but you're in a place of saying, okay, I haven't bought all my gifts yet, but I'm on my way. I bought a few. I know where I'm going. I know what's going to happen. We're going to have them all. We're started the process. Start the process, people. How many people are there? Majority. Okay, awesome. Good stuff. Now, how many of you are sitting there thinking, why are you even talking about this right now? It's December 2nd. I've got like 22 more days to go. I'm not going to think about this until a couple of days. Come on, people, show your hands. All right, you're my people. You are definitely my people. My family also knows how it doesn't work out so well on their ends, right? But gifts is a part of Christmas, and it makes sense. Because what we celebrate at Christmas is ultimately the greatest gift that has ever been given. And that is the gift of God himself. Maybe you're familiar with one of the Christmas hymns, Emmanuel. And Emmanuel is one of the names that is given to Jesus, which means God with us. And what we celebrate at Christmas is this incredible gift of God's presence in our life. This presence that brings a sense of forgiveness into our lives, that brings healing and wholeness. This gift that brings love and joy and peace and hope. And this is the gift that we celebrate. This reality that in following Jesus, it's not rules handed down, but rather a relationship that is offered. Of God coming into this world in the very person of Jesus, of living his life, of giving his life, and then raising back to life so that we could have the abundant life. Not only in the here and now, but for life forevermore. And this is the gift that God gives to us. But at times, there can be a dilemma. There can be a challenge in the midst of this gift. Now, I thought all this talk about giving of gifts, and perhaps some of you, as you walked in this morning, were wondering, why no bulletin? What's going to happen next in the service? Don't worry, we'll get you through the morning. But you did receive a card, and this card is going to serve two purposes. And the first purpose we're going to deal with right now. I thought with celebrating the Raw Carrot and Christine and Karen being with us, we have these incredible gift baskets from the Raw Carrot here. And I thought, let's just get into the Christmas spirit and give one of these away here this morning. This is why it's always good to show up live on Sunday morning, right? If you miss a Sunday, you can always follow on YouTube, but it's always great to follow live. And we have some soup in here, we have some crackers in here, some cheese spread, we got a pottery bowl, all kinds of good stuff. And so you don't think that I'm playing favorites, and I don't randomly look out in the crowd and think, okay, who's paying attention the most? They're going to get the gift. You're going to take your card, you're going to flip over your card. And on one particular card, if you have a snowman on your card, you are the winner. Anyone? Does anyone have? Hey, there we go. We have a winner. All right. So here we go. So here's. Tell you what, I'm not even going to bring it to you. We're gonna hand deliver this thing. I don't think I'm going to get feedback, but we'll see. But here is a great gift. Here's soup, crackers, cheese spread, a bowl. I could go on and on and on and describe this gift. John, would you like this gift?
Sure, but would anybody else like it better?
Well, I don't know, but I'm going to give this gift to you. And there you go, and you can enjoy it. And there might even be a way to share it with someone else later on in the service, but we'll get back to that one here this morning. See, show up in December, you might get a gift, right? But as I think about that gift, and as I think about the reality of what God gives to us in the midst of life, there's a challenge that sometimes we face, because a gift, there's two significant elements to a gift. There is the receiving of the gift, and then there's the sharing of the gift. You see, I could have talked about that gift over and over and over and over. I could have told you all about that gift, but it doesn't become John's gift until he receives it, until he makes it his own. Sometimes we can hear about the great gift that God wants to give to us. We can sing songs about the gift of God. But the question ultimately lands at this place is not have we heard about Jesus, not have we sung about him, but rather have we received him into our life as well. That very first Christmas, something incredible happened to those shepherds. They were going about the regular day, the regular routine. They're out in the fields near Bethlehem. They're just kind of hanging out. They're watching other people's sheep. Maybe they're just talking and bantering back and forth. When suddenly an angel shows up and says, hey, listen up. I have got good news of great joy that is for all the people. Today in the city of David, a Savior has been born. It is Christ the Lord. And this is how you'll find it. You'll find a baby wrapped in cloths. And then suddenly the heavenly hosts appeared. And they started singing and they started praising God. And it must have been just overwhelming. But in that moment, when the angels all went away, the shepherds had a choice. They could have simply heard the message. They could have simply been in awe of the message. But the choice was, would they go and check this out for themselves as well? Would they begin to receive this gift that God had given? Yeah, I think sometimes for those of us who have made that decision, for those of us that have decided to follow Jesus, we can skim over this too quickly. We can kind of run through this and kind of move on to the next step. But for many people, perhaps some in this room and many people in our communities, this gift that God has given to them is not being received. They may know the story, they may know about God's love, but they're not allowing it to become a part of their life. And I think there's a couple of reasons, a couple of dilemmas that we need to overcome. Ones that we don't quickly run through, but ones we actually see at the very first Christmas as well. The first dilemma is what I refer to as the dilemma of relevance. Of what difference is God really going to make in my life? I mean, imagine for the shepherds, they would have heard the announcement, they would have heard this good news of great joy that's for all people, but they could have stopped at the end of the day and been like, let's get back to the sheep. Right? I think oftentimes many people land at that place of hearing the good news of God, but then wondering, is it really relevant to my life? Is it really going to make a difference? And I think as those who follow Jesus, this should cause us to stop and pause for a moment. Because I think one of the questions we have to be wrestling with is the reality is that if we have followed God in our life, do other people see the difference that Jesus is making in our lives? Do we live in such a way that people become curious as to why we live with a sense of joy, that we have this sense of peace, that we have this overwhelming reality of hope, regardless of what is happening to us or even around us? Because the joy and the hope and the love of God steps beyond circumstance and situation and lands at the reality of knowing God's presence with us. One of the things that I'm reminded of is that the difference that Jesus makes in my life is that it gives me life with purpose. You know, we can find purpose in many good things. We can find purpose in relationships. We can find purpose in jobs. We can find purpose in purchases. We can find purpose in, I'm saying way too many P words here. We can find purpose in a lot of different things, and those are good things that are given us to God, but God's intention for us is that we wouldn't find ultimate purpose in those things, but rather find them in the giver of all of these good gifts. And so maybe this Christmas season, you're dealing with the dilemma of, is this gift going to make a difference? And perhaps it's an opportunity to step out in faith and to say, will I receive this gift of God's love in my life? Maybe not today, but maybe this Christmas season. You see, the shepherds wouldn't have understood the difference that Jesus was going to make unless they went, unless they took an intentional step and chose to go. And we see the difference that it made because when they returned to their fields, they were praising God and giving thanks. Notice their circumstance and their situation didn't change, but their perspective most certainly did. And that is the incredible gift of joy, a joy that steps beyond situations and circumstances. But maybe that's not the dilemma of the gift. Maybe the dilemma of receiving the gift is not this sense of will it make a difference, but maybe you land in the camp of more, is it really for me? Am I really worthy to receive God's love and God's forgiveness? We think we have a past. We think we've made poor decisions. We think that we have made and messed up along the way. And we fall into this camp of unfortunately thinking that I have to clean myself up. I have to get myself right before I can come before God. Don't miss the subtleties of the Christmas story. Notice God went to the shepherds. He landed right where they were. He essentially interrupted their lives and told them about this incredible gift in sending an angel, in sending the heavenly host. The shepherds in that day and age were not really a well-respected crew of folks. They were kind of simple, ordinary, didn't have much say, and God met them there. Notice the message didn't first go to the religious elite. Notice it didn't go to the wealthy and the important folks in society. No, it went to the shepherds. And there's a message there. There's a reminder there that this is good news of great joy. Last part of this, for all people. Not people who seemingly have their life put together, or at least act like it, but rather for all people. For the people that are hurting, for the people that have messed up, for the people that have brokenness. These are the people, all people, that God has come for. This is why the angels sang this gift of peace. And there's this wonderful reminder that the peace of Christ is a peace that transcends all understanding. It's a peace that steps into the midst of our life. And so maybe your dilemma this Christmas is in the receiving of this gift. Of saying, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to simply sing about it. I want to receive it in my life and allow this gift of joy to become relevant to me as well. But then there's a second element to a gift. It's not just simply in the giving. It's not just simply in the receiving. It's then in the sharing. John, I'm not going to tell you how to share that gift. You may want to share it with others. You may want to give that gift away. But one thing I do know about any good gift is you tell others, don't you? You get a great gift at Christmas, or someone gives you an amazing gift, and you put it on social media, you call people, you want others to know about this gift. If this gift of God is so wonderful, if this is good news of great joy, then are we sharing this with others? I think for a lot of us, this is where we trip up. This is the dilemma that we land on. We get the part about this being a good gift. We receive this gift, but then we kind of skip a section of this story. Right? If you follow along the story, the shepherds heard the good news, they went and saw Jesus, and then they went and told people, and then they returned to the fields. You see, sometimes we want to hear the good news, we want to receive the good news, and we just want to go back and keep faith private and confidential. And that's not what God desires. I think ultimately when God says we have good news of great joy for all the people, not everyone is going to have an angel appear before them. Not everyone's going to have the opportunity of a heavenly host. What God is doing is he is handing it off and saying, will you partner with me? Will you share with others this good news of great joy that is for all people? Yet too often, we keep it private. We keep it to ourselves. And maybe we struggle with, well, what do I say? I could be reading into this, but what do you think the shepherds shared? They shared their experience. They shared the difference that God was making in their life, and that's where we start. It doesn't have to be a theological discourse. It doesn't mean that you have to know every passage of the Bible. It doesn't mean we need to know all the answers to the questions that people raise. It means we share the reality of what God is doing in our life. Because that is what people want to hear. You know, so many people come to know the love of God because others have shared with them, because others have brought them. And so what about us this Christmas season? My hope is that we will see more people come to hear this good message of great joy than ever before. But we got to do it together. And so here's the second reason for this card. No bulletin this week because I didn't want anyone to get distracted. Didn't want anyone else to read through anything else. I'm asking you to do one thing this week. Don't put this up on your fridge as a reminder to you. Use it as an opportunity to invite someone else to join you on Christmas Eve. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's someone in your neighborhood. Maybe it's a fellow student. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's a friend. I don't know who it is, but how do we take a step of faith and just simply invite? Encourage someone to come and to be a part of what God is going to do in their lives. You see, what I love about the story of the shepherds is they went and shared their experience, and the people were amazed. And then the shepherds went to the fields. You see, it's not up to us to convince others of the need for God in their life. But we are called to share. We are called to be a part of this. And so we have more cards at all the doors. Maybe you don't limit it to one. Maybe there's others in your community, in your neighborhood, you work with, people that you can be inviting and just simply saying, will you come with me? You know, this is a season where people are more open to hear the reality of God in their lives. And wouldn't we love to be a part of this? Christmas is a season of gifts. And the greatest gift is God's presence in the midst of our lives. And so have you received it? And if you have, would you be willing to share it so that this good news of great joy will truly be given to all people? Let's pray.